Hello, everyone. Welcome into today's webinar, Leading with Both Sides of the Brain, presented by the Head of Leadership Growth at Educate 360, Dr. Jay Pugh. My name is Mariela Salinas, and I'll be assisting in moderating our session today. We are going to be in Zoom for today's webinar, and we will be sharing a copy of this recording with you in an email after the webinar. We do encourage participation throughout the webinar, so please use the chat or that Q&A option for our short Q&A after the presentation. Educate 360 is so excited to present this webinar today, so without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Dr. J.
Thank you, Mariella, and it's great to see everybody joining us. Welcome to Leading with Both Sides of the Brain. As Mariella mentioned, I'm Dr. Jay Pugh. I'm our Head of Leadership Growth, and I'm ready to talk to you a little bit about what the way forward looks like with leadership, what we're finding, what sort of important items we're seeing in the leadership sphere, and sort of what you should be expecting from leadership and development as we're moving forward into the next wave of today's workforce. And so, in kicking this off, I want to mention that this world of leadership is more popular than it ever has been. If you look at this, what it was 10 years ago, it was one of those things that was a great thing to have, but it wasn't necessarily a must have in the leadership and development space. It was like, oh, let's see what we can learn. And I want to learn new things and do this. And I think that's phenomenal. Now, what we're seeing across cultural components is it's not solely about the transferable skills alone, but it really is about the leadership connectivity and personal and professional development that's making businesses thrive and making people feel like they are invested in. That is the new market we're in, is the people market, which is phenomenal. And so I want to ask you a couple questions, and you're going to see some things to where we talk about using business analysis to define solutions, influencing to engage others effectively, connecting and collaborating, really evaluating the effectiveness of real, meaningful data to make tough decisions, and using vision for all levels of tomorrow. My first question for you is this. What do you see as some of the most important facets of today's leadership? And I'm going post-COVID. We are accelerated beyond belief. I want you to type in the chat. What do you see as some of the most important and influential features? So seeing EQ, Kim. Love this. Okay. Others. Ooh, I like that. A little Gemba in there. Very good. Communicating with compassion, collaboration, diverse understanding of our teammates. I really like this. Empathy. And I think that this is really great is, when we talk about understanding all of these different components, I love when we're talking about sort of Gemba and really understanding how to be a little bit more lean in our approaches and really trying to find effectiveness in our approach, where others we're talking about practical application. And then we're seeing this other side, which is really getting into open-mindedness and self-awareness and empowerment. And this is why this leads me to my next question for you. Why is leadership such a hard field? Why is it such a hard field? Why is leadership such a hard field? Ooh, Michael, I like this. Every individual is unique. It deals with people's feelings and emotions. So there is that piece. There's diversity. I like that, Kara, you mentioned that it's an art, not a science. We're going to talk about that. That's actually really phenomenal. People just won't listen. What if they just listened? People are unique. There is a balance. Kelly, I love this. There is such a balance beam, right? It's like trying to balance the scale between sort of this IQ data decision-making strategic approach versus this human empathy EQ component that is really putting people first. And it is. There's this sense of being inclusive and treating people with different backgrounds. And now we're really tailoring with diversity. And it is such a mix between these soft skills and hard skills. And it's so much more. And now I love what's being said here with Seam, the weight of responsibility and accountability, right? It puts so much added pressure and pain onto what trying to be the best possible leaders we can be. And now we factor in things like shareholders and stakeholders and how do we get the right information out of them? We start getting into spaces that talk about we talk about apologies, folks. Got lost there for a second. There we go. So hopefully you can see my screen okay. I think we can do that. If there might be a little reaction button, if you can, just throw a little quick thumbs up to let me know. There we go. I think I'm back. We're rolling. Okay, very good. All good. Excellent. So I bring this up because when we talk about this mindset of navigating all of these pieces of leadership and what goes into it, it has become so much more complicated than it was 20, 30 years ago. It is so different than it was. And I think that there's where a lot of leadership enterprises and businesses get into is typically they focus on one or the other side of this. And I love what I saw earlier, which was, when we talk about leadership, we're focusing on one side of the brain or another side of the brain. We're either focusing on sort of a business analysis, data enterprise, lean approach to leadership, which is about utilizing the most of our resources and making things happen. And now we're seeing another side that has always been around too, which is this people side, this EQ, empathy, care component. And what we've really seen in a lot of our findings, and I'm so proud that with Watermark Learning, I genuinely believe it to be the forefront of today's workforce. I really believe it to be one of the stronger enterprises in the way that we can focus on leadership. And part of the reason is that we focus on whether you call it both sides of the brain or all sides of the brain, we've really tried to tackle leadership from a multifaceted approach to where it doesn't have to be a one or the other approach to where, okay, now are we getting into analytics or are we getting into people? It is this overarching approach where you need all of them. You need that left brain, that analytical brain. You need that sort of process oriented, lean resource, utilizing the most effective nature of this. And you also need that right side of the brain that gets into the social emotional, which really does focus on human first mentality, human centered approaches. And then there's this third one that says, well, leadership is also your ability to propel things forward, to lean forward, to move forward. And so, how can we also introduce a visionary brain that's more strategic, that's more in a guidance role, that's more that people trust the credibility and the competence and your ability to move things forward in your approaches? And that's what whole brain leadership is really all about. And so this is something I'm so proud to share with you all, is this understanding that moving forward, as we focus on leadership initiatives, all leadership initiatives should have all three of these components brought in. How many of you would agree with that? If you do, if there's a reaction button, throw a thumbs up in there if you agree with this, that it shouldn't just be one or the other or just focusing on this, but it should just truly be something to where we consider all facets, where data has a place in the world, where process has this. And then you have the human side, which is truly critical. And the frontal lobe, that let's get moving mentality, right? Right? And Nick, you just said it right there. Too often in leadership, what we have a tendency to do is make it one or the other. And it truly should be an and. I will tell you one thing I'm so beyond proud of with my leadership crew, the directors on my team, the the team members on the team is every time that we discuss things out and make a stronger approach to this, it comes from a place that is truly geared around using all of our brain to make things happen. Hey, Mariella, not sure if you can hear me. Can you give me sharing rights, please? I'm not sure why the freezing's occurring. It seems that if there's chat coming in, that sort of has a component in there. So if you can give me some screen sharing capability, we're diving in.
Should be all good to go. Let me know if you still have issues.
Excellent. Yep, not sure where that's happening, but we'll get into it, and we're still rolling. All right. The other thing that comes into play, folks, is positivity. Notice that it's and let me readjust this. How's this from a volume standpoint? Is that a little better?
Volume sounds great.
Excellent, excellent. Yep. So in this case, the other thing that I can mention is that positivity. Positivity is another component that goes into leadership, and it's a really important piece of it. So, and being resilient is another piece of this. So I love getting into that because it's these are the three pillars we're going to move forward with as we talk about better whole brain leadership, that it is truly a mix of EQ and IQ. It's an understanding of the human personality that goes into play. And that is our approach in the way that we move things, especially where we get into the understanding that when we tackle these, we have to look at what goes into each piece on a deeper scale. So the first piece of this that I want us to understand, we're going to talk about our three-pillar approach and what three pillars go into this. So just by a thumbs up or just even hit the hand raiser if that works. How many of you, if you hit the raise hand feature, how many of you have ever taken a business analysis course or business process improvement? You've taken business relationship management, something in that space, or a Lean Six Sigma process? Excellent. And I bring this up because it is so critical. So there we go. And we're going to get this all figured out, folks. Apologies for that. So in this case, the reason why I bring up the leadership pillars is because when we talk about the first piece of this, having that business analysis, having some component of a leadership dynamic that focuses around data decision making, business process improvement, lean resourcing is huge, especially in the age of digital transformation. That alone is a first component that is critical in leadership. And the reason why is because it focuses on this deeper understanding that gets into data analysis and it gets into workflows and it gets into what my favorite verbiage is of all time, which is ROI. It demonstrates that you're trying to gain a better ROI in your business. And that is really important when it comes to stakeholder engagement and the people that employ us and the leadership that's in that sector. So it really does require us to elicit key requirements. And so as we dive into that, the other thing that we have to gear into is really focusing our brain more on, if you've ever taken sort of a DISC assessment or if you've ever taken anything in the space of the emergenetics or insights or any sort of quadrantized approach, This is where the true D and C approach come into play, or the red and the blue, because it truly is about your ability to make effective, quicker, data-based decisions and your ability to build better process, workflow, and critical thinking components that go into it. Those are the pieces on sort of that left analytical brain that we really need. On the other side, if we only led that way, we wouldn't have the people to work for us. And the reason why is because we also need the personal pillar. We need the true pillar that focuses on our human differentiation. I think over time, what's happened is once again, we either focus on one area to where we're talking about upskilling and spending more time in the upskilling and spending more time in the upskilling. And really, what we need to be doing is we need to be talking about whole skilling. Whole skilling is key. We need to focus on building better interdepartmental relationships. We need to be engaging others more with meaning and purpose. We need to be individualizing our approaches to connect with people on a deeper level. We need to be ready for this ever-changing generational workforce that's coming our way. We need to be ready for people. And so when we can show that human side of it, that human-centered approach, what ends up happening is we're able to start influencing without titles. People believe more in the data that we provide. They believe more in the processes we create. They connect better to us in this approach. We get more buy-in because people have emotions. Brace yourself for that. But there are emotions, and they are important to have. And we can deliver our message so much more with clarity and purpose and passion, not just precision alone. So, when I ask this question, I just want you to think in the back of your mind for a minute. I'm going to try something a little different this time. I'm going to turn off my camera as we do this and see what responses come in the chat. When you listen to somebody that you work for, a great leader of sorts, or maybe a great presenter or a great speaker of sorts, what causes you to listen, believe, and move forward with them? What causes you to listen, believe, and move forward with them? So we're seeing experience, which is the data point. Good. Solution focused. We're seeing trust. There's shared deep understanding, confidence, commitment. But now I'm also seeing other answers that there's pieces like that there's care about me and their team. When there is commitment, when they include us, they're transparent, they communicate, they have an upbeat delivery, that it actually is said with purpose and passion. There's belief and intentions. We need, and absolutely, we also need that data support, that evidence, that meat and potatoes that they say goes into it. This is huge in that factor. So I really appreciate you sharing this insight because there is a mixture of the track record, data, and process along with the departmental relationships that come with this, that we need to meet people where they are. And on top of that, we focused our attention moving forward in the way that we move around three different sectors. Number one, we have three different pillars of leadership that we get into. Number one is the process leadership pillar. This is our left brain business analysis, business process improvement, really focusing on streamlining, making things more effective, and having more data-focused decisions. Then we have the right side of the pillar, which is the personal leadership, which gets into more of human-centered leadership. This is where your EQs are, your emotional intelligence, your ability to influence, your ability to really connect with people and build better communication approaches. But the third piece of this that I really want to dive into is the visionary brain. As leaders, I'm going to share a very scary insight for some, and brace yourself for this. Believe it or not, the next wave of leadership that's coming over the next 10 years, we think that COVID accelerated things. Welcome to the world of digital transformation. Welcome to the world of AI. Welcome to the world of newer, faster, Technology is faster than ever. Communication is faster and broader than ever. And so in this case, we also need the strategic pillar. We need that frontal lobe to push things forward. And it can be. And Michael, I love this that Michael mentions AI is both good and bad. It really is on the way that it is used and the way that it is ethically approached. And I'll give a good example of this. Personally speaking, I love AI as from a generative standpoint to be able to help generate new ideas faster, gain more searching capabilities at a faster rate, generate data a little bit cleaner and quicker in the way that we move. I love that. At the same time, we can't solely rely on it so much that we lose our creativity. And that's why that right brain is so important too. Yep. And it is. It's something that creativity and our ability to have our voice messaging, that is the one thing that makes humanity so powerful even still to this day. So in this case, we have to look for a frontal lobe in the way that we move. This is really where we start fostering more motivation and growth, where we define and drive more clear expectations, not just for our teams, but for ourselves as well, to where we build more visionary approaches. I am a huge, huge advocate for the following statement. I think we spend too much time looking for answers and not enough time building better ways. And we need to be more proactive in creating stronger visions and decisive action. And we need to not only navigate difficult change, but we need to seek it and lean into it and challenge it with confidence because times they are a changing and we need to stay on top of it. And when we can do this, we can strategize more global efforts in the way that we lead. We can create more connectivity and workflow in a remote environment or in a hybrid environment. We can create a little bit more financial acumen in the way that we make stronger decisions. We can be able to gain levels of commitment at all stages of the organization, communicating up, down, across, and all the way. And the thing is that at the end of the day, if we're trying to really hone in to be the true higher leaders of tomorrow, we need to know what it takes to transform new approaches and not be afraid to do so. So these are the three pillars we hone in on. And so our third tier that we get into is the strategic leadership. It is getting into organizational leadership and managerial leadership, which means that, look, we have a true manager close to director level courses that we have. And then we have the organizational leadership components that get more into transformation, communicating across organizations, leadership excellence, really hitting into this. And I love what Nick just said is I wonder if it's because being innovative is inefficient, therefore lack of courage to undertake it. I think part of it is because we try to create a fragment of an idea and just run with it rather than really taking the extra time to take a real good look at what effective process can look like. And I think it could be a lack of collaboration at times. It could be a lack of resource allocation. It could be a lack of resource creation. And so there are quite a few factors that go into this, Nick, and I'm so glad you brought that up because that is what this strategic leadership pillar starts to dive into. So as you see these three right out the gate, which of these three do you see that you look at and you go, man, I might need a little bit more time. I might need a little bit more time and space in this pillar. Which one do you see for yourself? And I love what I'm seeing. I've learned that if my camera is off, that it will not freeze on me because you all are so wonderfully responsive that I think it's trying to catch up. So this is so phenomenal in what I'm seeing. And I can't thank you enough for the participation that we're getting into. What I love that I'm seeing across the way is that there's several of you that said process leadership. And it is. The answer is we could all use a little bit of each, right? But where can you go for leadership to be able to provide all three of these? And that's what I'm really proud to announce, that with this new watermark, we're not getting rid of the 30 years, the 32 years even, of the process-based leadership that we have been so famous for so long. We're expanding on it. We're expanding on it, and we're building in more of that personal and deeper strategic leadership by merging with New Horizons Center for Leadership and Development. We're building a new way to lead, and that's what makes this so exciting. So if you've how many of you have seen the traditional watermark website or the traditional watermark business? You know about watermark as a whole to begin with, just by a show. If not, do me a favor, give me a thumbs down if you're like, I'm not really that familiar with watermark, and this is interesting to me on that case. Good, good. This gives us such a calibration to understand where everybody's coming from. And so as we go through this, what I want to remind the people that have the thumbs up that say, hey, I have heard of this. This is the traditional watermark that has truly shaped what business analysis and business process improvement has looked like for 32 years. Now we've expanded and we're growing and we're making larger impact than ever. And the beauty of it is, when I asked you all, what would you like to see you get a little bit more of the leadership? Everybody has a spot now to grow. There's 165 of you on here, and every single one of you has a spot to grow. So, who's ready to learn about what we offer? Because this is going to be where we get into it. Number one, the process leadership, which is that left brain, gets into this space of, we have certification driven courses. We are the certification leader in CCBA, CBAP, ECBA. We have a true BA foundations course. Eliciting requirements is one of a great popular course. And it's literally for everybody, because how many of you have to know what questions you need to ask key stakeholders? Think about that for a minute. Eliciting requirements is such a popular class that we have, because I don't know that we ask the key questions we're really looking for, and this is a huge way to get into it. Agile business analysis, building better business cases to get better buy-in from the top. We also have process improvement and org change management, and we still have the Scrum Master and Scrum Product Owner that allows you to be the owner of your processes and procedures that need to occur. So those have still been here. We're still continuing those, and there's still such a need of it in today's leadership, because today you lead from anywhere. And leadership also requires that expertise. The other side of the brain that comes into play is that personal leadership. And this is where we have the more self-development, which I always say is like the internal side of things, which is thinking with critical insight, prioritizing your time, making decisions under pressure, accomplishing results you want. And it also gets into the space of truly, where we dive into the deeper communication courses. How do we communicate better, stronger, more, with more empathy, with more personal power than positional power? How can we really make more impact in our communication? This is where mastering meaningful engagement comes in, really being strategically engaging without manipulation. This is where influencing without authority comes into play. The EQ that we talked about, constructive conflict management, navigating difficult conversations, and so much more. But this is the social emotional side of the world that we can spend time in. And now we have the third forward brain, which is the strategic leadership pillar. This gets into really strategically mapping certain components of your business. Now, number one, that could be, I need to strategically map the personalities on all of our team members, right? I need to really hone in and get to know all the pieces that make my team members tick. Well, we have discs for that. We have evolving into the manager's role, supervisor's role. So depending on your level that you're considering moving up and into, there's a course for you. What we call the leadership 101, 201, and 301 that we start getting into. We have business relationship management. We have IT management, which gets into that space. So we have courses dedicated more to the IT manager moving into the space. In addition, we have things like managing remote and virtual teams. So if you're like, hey, I'm really having a tough time connecting with my team member in this remote virtual space, what can I do? We can talk and dive into that. The other thing that we have on the higher level is getting into more of the transformational leadership. I love this course because it really allows us to start looking forward in the way that we move. We talk about interdepartmental communication and buy-in. We talk about critical facilitation skills. We talk about leadership excellence. We talk about business acumen. This is where we talk about making the higher strategic decisions and being able to, number one, make more sound visionary decisions, create better long scale processes, and have the financial acumen to back up those decisions. Now, I guess a big question that I want to lead to you next is as follows. When you learn, I want you to think about what real learning looks like to you. And this is truly a personal endeavor for you. This is a personal approach. So this is strictly based on your answers. Do you best learn, say, for instance, through self-paced learning? Do you best learn through, um, training to where you get a skill? Do you learn through workshops? How do you best learn? I want you to think of like, hey, I learned through more connective hands-on learning. How do you typically have, maybe it's more, I learned through collaboration, or I learned through connectivity. Quite a different. Excellent. So we've quite a pace, right? We've quite a piece. Absolutely, Terry. I agree. Absolutely, I agree. And my goodness, we have once again, a whole myriad of ways that different people learn. And I'm seeing things like mentorship, collaboration, really getting into a certain deeper knowledge base, getting into this hands-on learning, practice, the ability to practice. How many of you like good coaching? Like, I want to be able to get into coaching, learning coaching. Now we're talking. And I bring this up because we all learn differently. And that's what I want to share about the way that we typically get into our approach. And I think there's a world for leadership out there in all spaces. So I don't want it to make it seem like what we're doing is better or that it's worse or anything in between. It's different. So the way we typically approach learning is through what we call the facilitative approach. We're really big in the facilitation space. And what that means is we will instruct you on skills, we will teach you new things, new concepts. But the thing is we help you. We don't just give you the answers in the book. We are here to help you find your answers to better leadership. That is a huge piece. We are huge on empowering the whole group, but connecting to each individual. Our courses are not just they're not solely just content focused. They are audience driven, which means we get you and you get us to create power in the way that we generate new ideas. So yes, do we have amazing concepts and practical applications? We sure do. But the thing is that we ask the deeper questions. We use metacognitive questioning to really get you to think about the way you currently think. We use true proactive listening techniques to understand the deeper message in what you're looking for. We use enquiry, not inquiry with an I, enquiry with an E, which is driven in deeper discovery behind the material you're looking to get. The reason why we do this, folks, is the days, and brace yourself for this. This may upset. I don't know if this is, but I'm going to say something slightly controversial, so please hang on to it with me. These aren't soft skills anymore. Soft skills were things of the 90s, they were things of the 2000s. There is nothing soft about these skills today. They are truly power skills. You look at PMI and you see that they've rephrased their triangle to focus not on sort of these softer skills, but they truly are power skills. And by power, it's what gives us power in the way that we communicate. It gives us power in the way that we connect. It gives us power in the way that we make differences for others. So we are, with the Watermark Way, we are the power skill leadership business. I guess my question for you is, who's ready to join the ride? What questions do you have for us on this space and whole brain leadership and entering this new frontier? I want to open the floor up to you all for questions. Absolutely, Mania. Yeah. And I didn't get my camera off in time. All right. So let's see what questions came in. Let's see what questions came in. Mariella, do you want to kick us off with questions?
Absolutely. So we have a couple in here, just some really like general ones, which is about the recording. You will definitely be getting a recording in your email after the webinar, so do not fret. And we had a couple other ones come in. So Robert here asked about theory and practical application for leadership, I'm
Mm,
going to assume. So good question.
yes. Yeah, I love that as a question. So what is specifically the question that we're diving into here?
Robert, you could definitely drop something in the chat and we can definitely elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah.
Um, for sure. And then we had a couple more in the chat that came through. Where can we find the courses? Watermarklearning.com. I'll throw that link in the chat for sure. And then we had another one here from Bobby. What is the best way for us to understand how the content matches your training techniques on site, virtual, self-study, etc.?
Oh, that is a great question. So we do all formats. We are highly flexible in our approach. So we have been leading the remote facilitation space since about 2001, even before it was cool. So we were using programs like Illuminate and just a whole bunch of different things in the remote space before it was cool. And so for us, we are heavy in both the virtual space because sometimes it's not easy to get everybody together. But we absolutely also do on-site facilitation. We do we can come to your location, deliver those events. Absolutely, we can do so. We're very flexible in that endeavor. What
Fantastic.
courses I see? What courses am I teaching? One thing that I want to answer on that is from a course I teach. So here's the thing: I serve as our head of leadership and development. So I don't teach any of the open enrollments per se, but I do still some of the larger speaking engagements for larger organizations, or if you have a foundation, I speak on those larger scales. Yep. So I wanted to answer that question that was here. And Marielle, if you can give me some screen sharing capability.
Absolutely on it.
So, in answering some of the questions, oh, and I don't have video either, but that's okay. We're going to still bring the power of voice for right now. So, the answer to the question on if there's courses that I'm teaching, I typically do a lot of our larger speaking engagements for companies as a whole, keynotes, things like that. But I want you to know that our team has over 20 years experience, and we have over 15 facilitators that have 20 years experience in the game. They are all over our global schedule. They also do dedicated events too. So I do still teach to a degree, and I do some larger scale engagements. And we have a whole team of successful people with an average of 20-year experience in what we're doing. And other questions we had, Mariella.
Absolutely. We had another one here from Anna. How do you best transition into a leadership role? I work hard, thoroughly, and foster good relationships and teamwork, but feel stuck.
Yeah, that's such a phenomenal question. I think many of us feel that way because sometimes we may feel we get unrecognized for the work that we do. And I think we all feel that from time to time. And so, Anna, if I could give sort of the advice, I think there are four ways that you can potentially work your way into moving into leadership. Number one is your ability to network with differing departments. I think sometimes we think when we move up to leadership, it is only a ladder approach, and it doesn't have to be. There is a lattice approach. I've watched people that were product specialists that turned into true project and program managers and moved into that space. I've seen people that have been in sales, but they've had so much experience on the operation side that they ended up moving into a sales enablement leadership role in that capacity. And so there are different ways that it doesn't have to be this just straight up approach. So that's the first way, is your ability to network and look for separate areas in the organization. Number two is to connect to a mentor. Really find a mentor that you can learn things from. I think that's a huge piece. Number three is the certification and the training route. That if you have a lot of sort of courses or things under your belt, that does give you the weaponry to be able to say, hey, I am a true master in the BA space or in the PM space. There's a lot of room for those certifications to help get in that endeavor. The fourth piece, and this one's a little bit more strategic, is find a way that is concrete that either reduces your cost and operating expenses or will generate further revenue without jeopardizing higher cost. Businesses like to be able to run things from a lean perspective. And when they do that, you have to find ways that if there's a way to generate more revenue without increasing cost, people will buy in a lot more to that. And that's where the people that move into this.
Excellent, excellent. I think I'm going to do a double check real quick. And if you have any more last minute questions, I believe that was our last question. So just to kind of tie us all up here, just to remind everyone, we will definitely be sharing this recording with all of you in an email after the webinar. And if you want any more info on this topic, please do not be afraid to visit us at watermarklearning.com. Thank you so much, Dr. J.
Appreciate everybody's time in this. Thank you for spending this time. Once again, if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We're all over LinkedIn. We're all over anywhere you need to find. Once again, watermarklearning.com. We're here to support you. Just remember that at the end of the day, the last thing I will say is we're here to help you achieve the things you want to achieve. So just know that that is always our mission and our mantra.
100%. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. And we will definitely be seeing some of you soon in the classroom, hopefully. So thanks again, everyone. And thank you again, Dr. J, for sure.
Thank you all.
Alrighty. Bye, everyone. Have a fantastic rest of your day.